Welcome back to the Communication Mastery podcast with me, Mark Burlinson. In this season in 2026, we're going to spend some time looking back and replaying some of the episodes that some of you have asked about in your comments. And in between those, I'm going to be back with little snippets each week of helpful information that you can put into practice in your business, in your life, to help you grow your communication mastery. And this week we're going back to a previous episode, and I know you'll enjoy it. I've picked this one out because it's been one that's been requested again and again. So take a listen with me back to this episode of the Communication Mastery Podcast. Today I've got a great conversation for you. My guest by Zoom this time is my friend Ned Alexander. Ned's from the Raleigh-Durham area and a small business owner there. So Ned, welcome to the podcast, and glad to have you with us.
Mark, thank you so much for inviting me to be on your podcast. It's a real pleasure. We've been friends for a while now, but it's really neat to kind of see this professional side of you like this, and I'm really looking forward to it. This is actually kind of exciting.
This is great. I'm glad to have you on. So tell us a little bit about you, about your company, just to fill us in on who is Ned Alexander.
Well, I'm 45 years old. I've been married for 15 years. I have one of those kind of like superstar wives that is stunningly gorgeous and absolutely brilliant, and everything she touches turns to gold. And so on one hand, I feel like I'm chasing her coattails and trying to keep up with her. And on the other hand, I feel like I have like my own things that I'm kind of like into, and we're very supportive of each other. So I'm in a beautiful marriage. I have two incredible boys, 6 and 8 years old, named Jet and Silas. And we're also pregnant with, I say we, Rosie, my wife, is pregnant, but I'm doing a very good supportive job bringing her lots of chocolate chip cookies and everything that she craves. But we're about to have our third boy in a couple of months, and very excited about that. I have a small business that is the same age as my marriage. 15 years ago, 14 and a half years ago, when Rosie and I got married, we also started the Alexander Fruit Company, and we deliver fresh fruit into break rooms all over the Triangle area. We're all about health and wellness. We live a very healthy lifestyle at home, and we're learning that, I guess because of the experience that we've just naturally had in our lives, there's other people who are trying to get on board with that and really striving and like struggling to live healthier lifestyles. And our friends are constantly coming to us, asking us questions. And sometimes they're not even asking. We're just giving them free advice that they don't even want. And we realized, like, okay, maybe rather than shoving this down someone's throat, we could start to put this information out into the stratosphere. And it's interesting when you start to do that. There's people who are just really hungry for good information. And so we're also having a really good experience, like on social media, like putting out some really good content about heart healing, but also like what's the best way to make this salad dressing and awesome salads and way to store produce and checking for quality at the grocery store, how to purchase like the best apples and the best celery and all sorts of fun stuff like that. We're just into all sorts of stuff. So that's me.
That's cool. You mentioned you're very active on social media. So tell us a little bit about how you got into that, and how does that benefit your business? How does it impact your business? Talk to us about the social media side of things for a minute.
Well, I have to say, I couldn't have done it without having a partner. I'm the type of person that if I'm doing something on my own, I can make it work, but I'm just not going to go as far. I'm not going to be as consistent. And so when I decided to really just dive into making social media content, I made sure that I had a really good partner, someone who wasn't necessarily like a social media rock star or something like that, but someone that we could like learn together and go far together. And that person is Mark Burlinson. I'm so freaking blessed to have you as a partner. And we jump on just to let the audience know, we jump on Zooms every single week and kind of go over, the projects that we're working on, and talking about the obstacles that we're overcoming. And we talk about goals, short term, and things that we're looking to get into over the next year. And man, just the fact that we do it together, it keeps me on track, and it really keeps me motivated. And I feel like kind of like a bonfire, that there's just more, wood getting thrown onto the fire, and it just stays well lit. But I really kind of officially started my social media accounts. Everything is under Alexander Fruit, whether it's Alexander.fruit or things like that. But yeah, we're on all the platforms, and I started a couple of months ago making content that's just focused on health and wellness, what I was just talking about. I mean, we talk about mindset stuff, we talk about heart healing, brain science, we talk about, I'm really big into making big healthy salads with homemade salad dressing, and we're really big into fresh fruit and all kinds of fresh produce. So I talk about all of that stuff, the supplements that I take, all sorts of stuff.
And obviously, I find it a great benefit to be able to talk with somebody else. That whole dynamic of having somebody else to communicate with as you're doing communication seems to really kind of be a catalyst for not just for content, but for the way to approach it and that kind of thing. So tell me a little bit about how you've maybe shifted your approach since you and I have been collaborating and talking. What are some of the things that have really kind of jumped out to you of, I could do this different, or I could do that better?
Yeah, one of the things that we discuss almost every week is ways that we can, like, I make a little note if something occurs to me, this might be something that would be helpful for Mark, and I'll make a little note, and then I'll bring that up in our next meeting. And you do the same thing. And so we're constantly kind of giving each other, whether it's an idea just for the other person or some sort of little breakthrough that we've had personally. And so I've made a lot of changes and evolved a lot, I'd say just in the last 2 months, since really starting it. Sure. But even if you go back 6 months to when it was just an idea, how long have we actually been meeting every week? It's longer than 6 months, right? Did we start in the summer maybe?
I guess so, yeah.
Or was it the fall?
It's probably 7 or 8 months now.
Yeah. So we started months and months before I actually started making content. And I'd say a lot of the process and the changes happened like in my heart and in my thinking about social media well up before I actually started making the videos. Actually, I was telling Colton, your producer, before we started the podcast, we were talking a little bit how I got started, and I definitely had some judgments in my heart about social media. And I guess I struggled with addiction with my phone, just like everyone else struggles with addiction. I mean, phones are highly addictive. And so rather than just give into that, I'm like pushing up against it constantly. And then in 2024, had the best breakthrough, just completely get off my phone, not playing any games on my phone, not on any of the social media apps. But with that, reinforcing all of those judgments that I had about social media. Social media is garbage, and it rots your brain, and it's just what is the little impulse with the dopamine, and it's just like giving you these little dopamine hits with the doom scrolling, and I'm just like, oh, get that away from me, like, ooh, gross. I don't want to have anything to do with that anymore. And then I realized, boy, oh boy, I've got like this ridiculous judgment in my heart. And the truth is, there's people making wonderful content, and I can be one of those people. I can make encouraging, helpful, life-giving content. And so I had to break agreement with those judgments that I had in order to even start and be fruitful with what I was doing. I'd say that's one of the biggest changes, that happened.
And it's been fun to watch that change as you and I have collaborated over the months here, just to see how much joy you get from creating content now because of the way you can give away something of yourself to the people watching. Have you been getting feedback from what you've been putting out? Are you getting folks following and reacting and commenting?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm kind of blown away. I thought that it would take a few months before I would get any momentum at all. But the one comment that stands out, there's just this one. There's lots of little, productive and nice things that people say, but this one guy just goes, "Keep making content just like this," and it was so encouraging because it's just this young man saying, "You know what? This is having a positive impact on me, and I want you to keep going for it." And I actually just last week I really struggled with some momentum and just with my mindset about social media, and just thinking back to just the idea that even though I'm so new to this, there's already a few people that are getting some genuine impact from the content that I'm making. But then not only that, some of my friends are texting me and going, "I've been trying to get the ginger tonic recipe that you are always talking about, and you never give me a concise recipe. Finally, you made a video about it, and so I just have it saved, and whenever I go to make my ginger tonic now, I can just pull up the video." And so it's good to get feedback from your friends like that too. How long have you been making content on social media?
About 9 months now. Um,
Okay.
Mostly it's a combination of just sort of random thoughts from my experience coaching people, and then snippets from this podcast, different things that will help other people to have just a very short content. I do a combination of both of those, but again, the responses are good to get the feedback from folks, and it's always
Yeah.
good to hear.
Since we started our partnership and started talking every week, because you were making some content before you were ahead of me in that. What do you feel has changed since we started bolstering each other and holding each other accountable and going over this stuff together?
I think talking with you has given me insight into how to vary what I put up and what I release, so that it's not all the same. A lot of it is the same because you want people to recognize, well, here's another podcast snippet, and obviously the visuals of that are fairly similar. But at the same time, to put out a variety of content is something I think I've learned, particularly how to do that, because you're younger than me, so you're kind of more up to speed with some of the different techniques and the different strategies, and so I've learned a great deal from that as well. And I think that whole demonstration of the interaction between two people who we're in completely different fields, but we're trying to work on the same journey, if you like, and that's been very valuable to do that. And I think the other thing that plays into that for me is that you and I are wired somewhat similarly, but also differently in our communication styles and in the way that we look at life and all of that. And so to have that variety is very valuable too. And I think we've been able to be helpful to each other in those ways by being different and sharing our experiences as well as our expertise. I think that plays in quite heavily into how valuable the interactions are that we have when we get together each week.
There's been so many times when we would either be in the middle of a conversation or we would start one of our conversations and just quickly get derailed by what's going on in life. And I got to say, those are some of my favorite conversations with you, because you have such a, golly, how do I say it? Just what you carry and your life experience, but then also the things that are like your specialties, your expertise. I mean, it just comes overflowing out of your heart, and I get the benefit of being friends with you and being partners with you. And so there's times where, I'll ask you a question about that pertains to life languages or what is it called now?
Communication IQ. Yeah.
Communication IQ. And so when there's something that I'm dealing with, like with my wife, and there's this communication breakdown that's happening, and there's definitely been times that I would spiral because I feel like, I mean, I don't know about anybody listening, but I've gone to plenty of different therapists, and sometimes you go to a therapist and you ask for advice, you talk about the problem, but they're trying to go into such a deeper thing, and you're like, okay, well, that's good. Like, in general, I'm glad that we're like doing some hard work here, but I just need some practical help with something that I'm really struggling with here. And there's been times that I've been talking to you about some specific things like that, and you're able to just give me some of the most practical advice that I've ever gotten in real time. I got to thank you for that, Mark. That's a huge deal.
I'm really grateful that that's been the case, and that certainly gladdens my heart. And I hear that, often from clients and friends as well. But I'm interested that you mentioned about how you and Rosie utilize the communication IQ, life languages insights in your own relationship. Talk to me a little bit more about that, because I know you're a huge fan of it now. You've discovered it, but tell me a little more of how that works for you two.
So when I took my profile and I learned like a little bit about myself, and Rosie took an updated, because she's been into this for years and she's been trying to get me to do it for years. And I'm like, Rosie, you will not put me into a box. I will. I was just so against it, and personality tests and the whole thing is like, not interested. But you really helped me understand that a profile is not a test, and it really is just a way to discover what's going on with the way that I communicate, and what's going on with some of my strengths and other places that are opportunities for me to grow. And then you start to learn those things about your spouse, and then things start to click and make sense, and you're like, oh, that's why you have a value for this, and that's why this happens like this. And so it's really just helped me to have a lot of appreciation for who my wife is, and like what's important to her and what really gets her going. And then the other thing that goes right alongside that is like, okay, this is how she is, this is how I am. And now it's kind of like seeing how those puzzle pieces interlock together in like such a beautiful way. It's just interesting, because it's almost like, imagine a Rubik's Cube and you can just kind of mix it all up. And there's probably a trillion different ways that it could be mixed up. Well, now you take this other Rubik's Cube and you mix it all up. And so you have these two Rubik's Cubes that are mixed up in all these different ways. And then you compare them and let them try to like speak with each other and like communicate together. It's like, that's not going to happen. These two things are just going to be completely randomly mixed up in 1,000 different ways. And so what the communications IQ does for me is it's almost like a translator, right? It like helps these two completely different things, like the whole men are from Mars, women are from Venus. Is that what it is? Have you heard that before? Yeah, it's almost like this Google Translate that's between us that helps her see me and hear me better, and then it helps me see her and hear her better. But then, you know what else is beautiful about that? Like feeling felt. Have you ever heard it put like that before? Like really feeling like, I feel felt. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I feel like you hear what I'm saying. I feel like you see my point of view. And that's something that we've been struggling to figure out for 15 years.
That's great. And of course, regular listeners to the podcast will recognize that one of your stronger languages is a feeling language. And that's why you're expressing it that way, that you feel felt. But it's so important that you do feel that. My guess is that with Rosie, that's not her primary communication style, but I would imagine you can also adapt to her, whether it's thinking or action.
Right.
She's mostly action.
She's really big. She's really big into motives. What's that connected to?
Yep, that's the mover language.
Like pure motives?
Yep. What's your motive is the filter question for the mover language.
Yeah, and that's just her go-to question. So for like a husband, how do you think it feels like having my motives questioned every day, always in perpetuity? And so it's like, wait a second here. But then you realize, oh, she's not questioning my motives per se. She's not saying like, I don't trust you and I think that you're like out to get me in some way. There's just this internal kind of need that needs to be met, like a little internal itch that needs to be scratched. And I can kind of help her with that. And by communicating with the way that, she needs me to, it really is a beautiful thing. It's like a way of nurturing each other and taking care of each other.
Yeah, no, that's a very good way of putting it. And it's not like your whole capacity is taken up to meet that need. It's more like, a light switch is a tiny little thing, but when you flick the light switch, the light comes on, and now you can see.
Right.
And so once you recognize those little kind of light switches in each other, then you can have that stronger, deeper, more effective connection, because you're not leaving the questions unanswered, which is very powerful. Do you see that same
Yeah.
dynamic working? Because obviously you meet a lot of people just in real life with your company, and I know you're not just on social media. You've got a real life social life as well, with lots of friends. You know, at your church and in friend groups and so on. How do you see those sorts of principles working, whether you're delivering to a customer or relating to friends?
Right. This is, I'm going to be completely honest. I feel like I'm so new to it, to where I'm in the stage where it's like I'm considering it. Like it's something, I'm in the consideration process. And so I'm in a conversation with like a potential client, and or I'm in like we'll even call it a sales meeting. And I get out of that sales meeting and I'm thinking back and I'm like, oh, like I feel like maybe I didn't really, maybe I didn't ask the right questions, or I didn't ask enough questions, or I'm kind of critiquing the conversation. And it's now helpful because I'm realizing like, okay, I could have attuned better and heard like the way she was talking like this, and I could have been more like this. And so I feel like as I get better and better with this whole length, with like this whole model, it's going to be something that has a great impact in these areas. Also, I have a lot of value in being a good friend. Like I love having good friends, and I like to be a really good friend. And there's even times where I get off of the phone having maybe a 30-minute conversation with a friend, and then I think, did I just blab was I just on my own thing the whole time? Was I not even like really focused on him or asking questions about what's going on with him? And it's just interesting. I just notice I'm becoming a lot more conscious of the dynamics, not just in conversations, but in relationships, really. Because I guess I feel like relationships in one way is like a series of conversations, right? And it's like I want to get better and better at those conversations and really attuning. Yeah, and I'm 45 years old, and I am not even close to being there. Like I'm just not even close at all. But it is something I'm aspiring to.
That's great. And that's partly why I was excited to talk to you at this kind of point of your journey in communication understanding, because I see that just as you and I interact, I see how you've grasped it for yourself, and the insights that the profile's given you and our conversations have given you has really changed how you see yourself, but also how you relate to your wife and your family. But now I'm seeing you beginning to apply it more widely as you learn the whole picture and see different settings. So that's encouraging to me, that you're along the journey towards being able to adapt to different settings and different people, and to learn from each interaction. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
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 So
thanks, Mark.
with folks that you don't know so well, you talked about sales calls and that kind of thing. What are some of the lessons that you've learned about communicating? You've given us one already by implication, that you kind of review the conversation afterwards, but even as you're going into a conversation, how do you prepare? Or in the midst of a conversation, how do you navigate what's happening and how to be most beneficial to the customer?
Yeah. One thing that I do is I have a friend who is incredible with sales. And again, this goes back to partnerships for me. Like, I just do so much better when I'm pouring into someone and someone's pouring into me, and there's like this reciprocating relationship. And I have this friend who we talk on a regular basis, and he's just incredible with sales. And so if I'm going into like a really important sales meeting, like for example, last month, I had a meeting with MetLife, and there was they have 1,300 employees at this particular campus, and this would have been my largest client if I win that client. And so I'm just feeling very nervous, and I'm prepared. I know what I'm going to say. I know kind of the basics of what I'm going to be talking about. But man, like, just getting on the phone with my partner and him reminding me like, listen, you got this, and and then giving me a couple of questions like, hey, you definitely want to lead into the conversation and ask a question like this. But if he gives me too much advice, it's just overwhelming, and it kind of shuts me down a little bit, and I get lost. But yeah, to be able to like have a partner and to go over that sort of thing, and then it kind of helps me feel prepared. One thing that I do is I guess I kind of read over some notes, and I kind of think about the needs that they have and the potential needs that they have and ways that I can help them overcome obstacles. But really, I call it more of a discovery meeting. Like when I'm going into these meetings, like it's just to help us both discover like what are the issues, what's the biggest, issues that you're having when it comes to trying to create health and wellness in your office, and what can we do to help like support you and help that be easier. And so I'm like brainstorming things like that. But I guess I'm such a newbie when it comes to like really analyzing my communication styles and even knowing like, well, how do you say it? Like which of the pillars or which of the 7 languages, like which one is kind of forward in that moment?
Right.
How do you
Yeah.
say
So
that?
which language do we need to speak in the moment for the communication to be
Right.
effective? Because you can switch between all 7.
Yeah, I know. And it's easy to get fused into one. And if you're not being intentional. And so I guess in the past, I've used tricks. I've kind of tricked myself to kind of, I know myself, and I know how to switch from a bad mood to a good mood, or switch from more left-minded to more right-minded. And I have these little tricks, and I can listen to a song, or I can talk to myself in a certain way, or I can do an exercise that will help me do that. But now it's like I'm learning the language behind these tricks that I've just developed. We all have these kind of little tricks that we use on ourselves to get into the frame of mind that we want to be. For example, like I get together with a friend every week, and we write songs together. We're writing lyrics, we're writing melodies, we're writing chord progressions, and you have to be, you can't be in like this analytical mindset and go into this like creative, artistic time together. You're not going to get anything done. You're just going to get frustrated, and your brain isn't going to be in a creative mode. And so you got to kind of like shift over into that right side. There was this one particular time, this is a pertinent example. There's this one particular time that I'm going to be meeting with one of my friends and to have some creative time together. Separate from that, I also had some feedback for this person about some other things that we had been dealing with. And it might have been difficult feedback for him to receive. And so I made a conscious decision. I'm not gonna use this time with him as an opportunity to give him this feedback. Actually, I'm gonna put that intentionally on the shelf, and I'm gonna stay focused on staying in that right brain and helping him stay in that right brain. We had a great time together, and then on the way out the door, he goes, "Hey, how is that other thing the other thing da da da?" And I go, "You know what? I'm glad you brought that up. I actually wanted to talk about it. I just didn't want to get distracted and get off track. Do you think maybe we could have a phone call a little bit later?" And he goes, "Yeah, absolutely. I'm going into a meeting. I'll call you later." And he called me in an hour after that. And we had an amazing 45-minute conversation that was very productive. He heard me very clearly. I heard him very clearly. We stayed on the same page. There was no offenses taken at all. And I kind of got off the phone call going, wow, what a win. Like, we had our creative time together. Then we had our difficult conversation after that, and it all worked really, really great. And he and I are still great friends, and we did it. Like, success.
Yay. That is fantastic, because that really illustrates the power of understanding the different communication styles. And actually, I was talking to somebody last week about the whole idea of basically you're having a team meeting in your head with these 7 different characters that have all got something to say, but you can manage that team for the benefit of whatever relationship or whatever project or whatever challenge or whatever setting it is. And that's a perfect example of how to do that. So you needed your influence and responder languages, the creative languages, to be at the forefront for the music writing. And so your shaper, this is the feedback I need to give to help lead this person to be better, needed to wait until later. But when it was in its right place, then it worked really well, and it didn't cause offense, didn't cause a rupture in the relationship. That's a great example. Yeah, I love it.
You're such a genius, Mark. How long have you been doing this stuff?
Oh gosh, I've been coaching for 8.5 years now. Training coaches for nearly 3. But I've known about the life languages communication IQ profile for 20 plus years. So my first profile was from 2001. So
what were you doing before that led into this? Like, what was it that made this make sense to you so much?
What made it made sense was that when I first discovered the profile, I was in a leadership position in an organization. And so to be able to understand myself through this lens helped me to lead other people, because now I was able to understand that they were different. The mistake we made in the early stages was to think that we were all different and we were stuck being different. And it's only in the last 7 or 8 years, as I've pursued it further, that I've learned more about how to adapt, how to use all 7 styles of communication to be able to build connections with people who are different. To adapt to the different ones. And it's not just with my business, but in other settings as well, with friends. I think I've been able to be far more helpful to people because I've learned to adapt. I've learned to approach them in different ways.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of one particular friend whose wiring is very different to mine, but I literally, this would ring bells with you, because Rosie's first language is the mover language, the what's your motive, and right and wrong, black and white, get on with it, make things better, action all the time. My friend is very similar to that, except he also had a lot of issues in his life that he still needed to work through. And so it didn't come over as positively as you probably experienced with Rosie. But he had to work his way out of that. And it was kind of my role to try to help him make that journey. And so learning to adapt to a language that in my profile is very low, but to pull that one up all the time and to be able to relate to him in the language where we could connect really helped us to make some progress. And he's made tremendous progress now. He's in a much better place, and he doesn't just get stuck in that one language. He can use all 7 of them because he's applied himself to learn it. Just as you've been doing, in the different settings, like you just demonstrated with your friend with the music and then the feedback conversation. Right. It's so powerful to be able to have the skills to adapt to one another. I love it.
Do your listeners know that you and your wife Jane pastor a church?
I think they do. I think I've mentioned the church before. Yeah. It's not a secret.
How long have you been a pastor?
Pardon me?
How long have you been a pastor?
28 years, nearly 28 years now. On and off, not constantly, not in the same place.
So when you started getting into like this, all this communication stuff and just diving into it, like how did that change? Like, did you just immediately start noticing a difference in your like skills as a pastor, or like what was the impact with that? Like, what were
Yeah.
you like as a pastor before, and what are you like, and like how did that evolve?
That's a good question. I think I was fairly well aware that I didn't want to ever force anybody into my mold from the very beginning, but to treat people as they are, because you've got to take people from where they are if you're going to help them get to where they want to go. But I would say that my ability to do that has really grown because of the communication focus, because you've got to be able to make connections with people to be able to help them, to lead them, to help them discover who they are for themselves. And I think that one of the things it's done in my heart is I'm much more suspicious of the sort of standard programming approach that is often the case in churches, sadly, where, well, if you just read this book or complete this course or, do these steps, then you'll be a better person. I mean, actually, everybody's different. And so my ability to help people be different has grown as I've learned more about the communication styles. And so I've seen a great difference in the last maybe 10 years, as opposed to the previous 18. In the results in other people's lives and the impact on other people's lives. It's fun.
That's awesome.
Get to help other people be more of who
That's
they're
really
meant to be, and that really floats my boat, because that's part of my wiring, is to want to be enthusiastic and encouraging for people. I mean, it's partly why I do this podcast, is to make it available to folks to learn and to grow for themselves. So. But,
did we meet for the very first time at the A school in Raleigh?
yes, I think that's true. We did. So we were at a school
Okay.
together.
Yeah, I remember.
For the week.
I remember the context of that because I was like digging up and processing a lot of my dad's stuff.
Uh-huh.
And I know Rosie was too. And so there was this, I'm a pretty open-minded, soft-hearted, vulnerable guy, but that particular week was just like I was on the surgery table and I was just like wide open, right? And so meeting you and Jane, even though you're out of state, even though we didn't exchange phone numbers, even though there was no other real connection, just meeting in those circumstances, and you and Jane were both just such lovely, soft-hearted, genuine people. I instantly felt this bond with you guys. And I don't know whether it's fatherly or big brother, kind of a thing, but I just really connected with you guys in a beautiful way. And I'm just so grateful, and blessed that it's like progressed, because you don't normally pursue relationships with people that are out of state, and you don't normally like pour into and get poured into from people that are out of state. I've never been much of a long distance guy. So yeah, this is an interesting friendship that we have.
Yeah. And I think both of us are maybe a little surprised that it happened that way, but I think I'm not speaking out of turn to say we're both very grateful for what has happened through our friendship. And for me, it's given me a fresh impetus to want to be available to people who I may not encounter, every day at the grocery store, kind of idea, because actually it works so well when you sort of stumble across somebody who's got something you need, or you've got something that's going to benefit them. There's so much more fruitfulness in our relationships when we've got something to offer one another, and we've learned how to offer it in a way that can be received. The motherly, fatherly Mark and Jane that you met at that school didn't used to be like that. It's something we've had to learn
Wow.
and grow into.
Wow.
And so that's why I love what I get to do, because I help people to become who they want to be or who they're designed to be in a way that makes them
Right.
more valuable to other people, which is great.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's awesome.
Oh, Ned, this has been so much fun. Before we wrap it up, is there anything else that you'd like to say to the listeners? Obviously the listeners and the viewers are wanting to grow their communication mastery. What else is on your heart that you'd like to make sure they don't miss out on? Viewers and listeners, he's switching into his contemplator language and digging deep for something really profound here. So this is going to be good.
I just I have been in a tumultuous 2 weeks, and it's crazy because ever since the beginning of January, so like the very beginning of 2025, it's like I shot out of a cannon. And I was feeling amazing, and I was looking amazing, and I was doing amazing, and everything was amazing. And then about 6 weeks into that momentum, I made a little tiny misstep, and then I skipped another little thing, and it didn't take much for me to just like trip. And I'm not talking about I'm not talking about anything ridiculous. I'm talking about just normal, everyday little things. And those tiny little things just quickly added up, and somehow I fell into like this 2-week vortex of multiple circumstances piling up, painful, like heart hurts boiling up. And I think right in the middle of that 2 weeks was kind of like the trench in the middle, just that like painful part in the middle. But I kind of just realized like I can sit in this, and this can be my experience, and this can be my life, and I can let life happen to me, or I can be intentional. And so even this morning, like yesterday was just it's so hard to describe, but the easiest way to say is just like everything isn't necessarily in its right place, and I'm not exactly sure like how to just motivate myself and just be awesome. It's like I need it to be authentic, and I need it to come naturally, because I'm not going to fake being awesome, right? I'm just not going to do it. But man, when I woke up this morning, I woke up at 5, and well, I'll skip back to last night actually. Before I went to sleep, I thought, when I wake up in the morning, I'm going to hop out of bed, and I'm going to do something really difficult right at the beginning of the day. And this is kind of a funny thing. I'm just going to do something difficult right at the beginning of the day. And I'm going to set myself up to have a really good day, because I'm tired of just one day after the next being mediocre or just feeling bad or dealing with obstacles and really struggling through them. I love to thrive through obstacles. And like, I just love that. It feels so good. But it's like, if you're just slogging, it can just, it's just awful. And so I was just determined, like, I'm going to get up, and first thing, I'm going to do something difficult. I'm not going to look at my phone. I'm going to avoid any like little dopamine. And I actually avoided coffee. And I had some ideas for what I wanted to do. And I edited a video, and I did a couple of little things. But then I was like, no, I want to do something. And so, you know what I did? I took apart every single thing from inside my refrigerator. This is at 5:30 in the morning. I took everything out of my fridge, and I scrubbed it from top to bottom.
Wow.
And I did this just as an exercise. First of all, I knew that this was going to bless my wife and that she was just going to wake up and be like, because I mean, she runs a pretty tight ship, but we, we don't do deep cleaning like that, like all the time. And so I'm like, I'm going to take every single thing out. I'm going to pull every single drawer out. I'm going to pull out every single shelf, even the things on the doors. And I scrubbed everything. And then I put it all back together. And then I went upstairs and I just missed out on Pilates time together. I was cleaning the fridge a little bit too long. And so we missed our opportunity to do Pilates together. But I came upstairs and I told her what I did, which is another thing. I used to hide everything, Mark. I would do something, I would serve my wife in a way, and I would like allow it to go under the radar and maybe just hope like she'll recognize it one day. And I realized I was really setting myself up for failure by like having this expectation that she would just discover the beautiful thing that I did for her. So now I just tell her. I do something and then I just go tell her. And I'm not doing it to get recognition. I'm more just doing it to let her know, like, include her in on the gift, right?
That's great.
And she was immediately just like lifted in her mood and was like, oh, I really appreciate that you did that. And it was like a nice little point of connection right at the beginning of the day. And then we were able to jump in and make breakfast and make lunches for the boys and get them dressed and off to school. But
fantastic.
Then that spilled right over into this conversation with you.
Right.
But I just the intentionality of doing something difficult at the beginning, and I'm just putting myself very intentionally back on the train tracks and then moving and allowing myself to just move forward and breaking off these expectations that I have to do something great or be incredible. Just being on a daily basis and doing that with intentionality actually is very gratifying, and it puts me in a really good place. And so, I don't know. I just wanted to share that, and I want to encourage people to start living intentional lives in the moment. Make some decisions on a day-to-day basis, because you know what? It's all about right now. Like, we get so stuck, like planning for the future or lamenting about the past. But the truth is, like, my time right here on this call with you is the most important thing to me. And I'm just really excited to be here with you. I'm so glad to be with you. I'm building joy with you. And
that's
man,
wonderful.
if there's anything that's more important than that, I don't know what it is. Like, it's just an incredible thing. So I have a lot of gratitude for you, Mark, and I really appreciate this time with you.
Thank you, Ned. And that's a beautiful place to leave it. We've had such a great conversation. And thank you to the listeners and the watchers. We'll see you again next week. And Ned, thank you again so much. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. It would mean a lot to me if you'd rate and review the podcast so it helps more listeners to find us. But also, would you give me your feedback on things you'd like to hear about in future episodes? And remember to share the episode with a friend if you see something that would benefit them as well. You can reach me with feedback through my website at markburlinson.com. Just click on the contact button and send me a message. I respond to everyone personally, and I really want to hear from you. So thank you again for listening, sharing, reviewing, and giving me your feedback.